We need our country to stand proud in the world and to have a reputation so it can influence others on things like human rights. We talk to China about human rights and other countries. If you want to do that, the idea that the UK joins Russia and Putin as being one of the only country that has a derogation from this, I think that's a serious mistake.
The political tug-of-war over how tough the immigration bill should be seems to have been won by Conservative backbenchers. Rishi Sunak's agreed to amend the illegal migration bill to prevent judges from the European Court of Human Rights delaying deportation flights. The leader of the Liberal Democrats, Sir Ed Davey, joins us. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
And let's start with that. It's quite notable, this, I suppose, in terms of a measure. It sort of restores some power to the UK in terms of its direction of travel over illegal migration. And does it seem reasonable to you?
Well, no, because it doesn't deal with the problem. I mean, the truth is nothing in this legislation is going to address what's caused our asylum seekers to become overwhelmed. And that's the chaos and dysfunction in the Home Office, where they can't process applications. It's not going to tackle the backlog of over 160,000 asylum seekers, ensure those claims are processed efficiently. It's not going to deliver fairness for taxpayers. This is all about an internal Tory party battle over ideology. It's really, it's pathetic, to be honest. It's not dealing with the problem.
Can you accept that it is part of dealing with the problem? You've mentioned different stages of the immigration and migration process there, and while there is perhaps acceptance that some of those things need addressed, this is part of the problem that needs addressed.
Not really. I mean, if you're trying to get people, first of all, safely here, you need safe and legal routes, which the Conservatives still haven't delivered.
Well, we understand that there's going to be an amendment that will commit them to publishing a plan for new legal routes for refugees within 6 months of the bill passing into law.
They're going to publish. We've been talking about this for years. The problem has been caused. Let's understand why there's so much chaos in our country, why this is a problem, why it's being debated. It's being debated because they failed. They failed for years to allow people to come here. They failed to manage the processing applications. They've not listened to Liberal Democrats talking about giving a right to asylum seekers to work so they can contribute, so the taxpayer actually doesn't have to pay but gets money back to the system. It's a complete failure by the Conservatives.
So which part of the process would you prioritise? If bringing a bill like this isn't the right thing to do, what is the right thing to do?
Oh, right. Well, we've got a 5-point plan for this. I can take you through the details. The most important thing, though, by far, is processing applications efficiently. Any MP who does casework where they have a number of asylum seekers in their constituency will tell you how completely hopeless the Home Office has become. I mean, it wasn't brilliant to start off with, to be fair, but under Priti Patel and Suella Braverman, it's just got a total disaster. And it's costing the taxpayer a huge amount of money because they can't do the basic job right. And, it oughtn't to be that difficult. I've seen it done well in the past. And it is all to do with the Conservatives just being in such chaos. I mean, we've had so many Home Secretaries. We've had so many prime ministers. We've had a government in utter chaos. And I guess that's part of the reason why basic things are going wrong in our country.
So just to be clear, so that's helpful. Thank you for that. Just on these particular amendments today, would you do the opposite of what the Conservatives seem to be suggesting? Would you allow the European Court of Human Rights to stop deportation flights?
Well, that's been the case in our country for many, many years.
So that would continue for you.
And the problem is that what the government proposing, and I haven't seen all the details, to be honest, because like you, I'm understanding what's in some leak in the papers. So I need to see the details. But let's remember that the only other country that has demurred from the European Court of Human Rights is Russia. So if you're trying to have Great Britain, which we need our country to stand proud in the world and to have a reputation so it can influence others on things like human rights. We talk to China about human rights and other countries. If you want to do that, the idea that the UK joins Russia and Putin as being one of the only country that has a derogation from this, I think that's a serious mistake.
So it's a punchy comparison you make. So just in terms of clarity then, you would allow these interim injunctions from the European Court of Human Rights. They're known as Rule 39 orders, but they would stay. They should stay as far as you're concerned.
I think they should, because I believe in upholding human rights. I'm sorry the Conservatives no longer do it and want to join with Putin in derogating from them.
Let's go on to some of the other issues of this morning with you, Sir Ed Davey, leader of the Lib Dems. Of course, let's talk local elections, shall we? You're kind of hoping to make big gains. You're making a lot of your challenge to the Tories. What would you consider a good result? What would it be for you? Is it about Tories losing seats or Lib Dems gaining seats?
Oh, it's Lib Dems gaining seats. We want communities to have the benefit of a local champion who's actually going to do the work and stand up and be a voice of their community, standing up on local services, local environment, campaigning for a better health service. Those sorts of issues are coming up on the doorstep. And in terms of, I'm not going to predict what the outcome, but I'll tell you what we're finding. Even though these are seats where 4 years ago we had amazing successes, we had net gains of over 700 in these councils 4 years ago. So we're coming from an incredibly high base. I think we're going to make more gains. And there's several reasons for that. First of all, I think we have got great candidates fighting some brilliant campaigns all around the country, and not just against Conservative, by the way, against Labour in places like Hull and Stockport and Sheffield and many other places. And we're going to beat some Labour candidates, by the way. But also because in terms of the Conservatives that you raised, we're finding lifelong Conservatives saying they're not going to vote Conservative again because they're so shocked about how appalling this government is. Whether it's the trashing the economy, whether it's the cost of living, whether it's the crisis in the health service or our social care. Going back to the point you raised on asylum, everywhere you look, we are so badly governed by the Conservatives. I've never known a government so incompetent and lacking care and compassion. And that has got through to people across the country, and including people who've been loyal Conservative supporters but can no longer bring themselves to support what is a right-wing ideological cabal that's divided, that isn't focused on the issues that matter to people.
Gosh, there's a lot in that, because Rishi Sunak is very much portraying this image of getting things done. He set out his promises, his pledges. Indeed, what we were just discussing about the migration bill is a top priority for voters, it would seem, as suggested by any number of polls. So actually, it would seem that in terms of Rishi Sunak's pledges on the economy, on inflation, he has set out his purpose, and he is pushing through with some of these things.
Well, that's a very good attempt. If you look at the polls and if you talk to people on the doorsteps around the country, the real issues are the cost of living and the NHS. What do we hear from the Office of National Statistics yesterday? That food prices went up by 20% year on year, the fastest since the 70s. And that's hitting families and pensioners across millions across the country. They're really, really struggling. So he's failing on that, which is, I think, the most important thing for people. And on the NHS, he was going to bring waiting lists down, but they're going up, and he's failing to get around the table to bring an independent mediation to deal with these issues. And so we can have a fair deal for doctors and nurses and ambulance workers and paramedics and so on, and we can get our health service going. So he's failing on the health service. So Rishi Sunak, he's got lots of great spin doctors around the place, but he's failing on the things that matter to people, as the Conservatives have continued done, which is the economy, the cost of living, and the NHS.
Just a final one for you as well then. Is Sir Keir Starmer a softie?
I don't know him that well, to be honest. Maybe the Prime Minister does. I think I found the spectacle that Prime Minister's questions yesterday deeply, sad, really, that we've got some vital issues and we had a slanging match. I asked a question about NHS dentists, because it's really clear that there are lots of people, lots of parts of the country where there's a desert for dentists. You can't find an NHS dentist, and people are in acute pain. And we've got evidence that people are resorting to DIY dentistry because the Conservatives have so run down the dentistry service in our country. So, I'm not going to go into those personal slagging matches that Labour and Conservatives seem to be engaged in. Liberal Democrats want to fight on the real issues, which is improving the health service for our country.
Understood. Sir Ed Davey, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sir Ed Davey is leader of the Liberal Democrats.